All right, hello everyone. Sorry for my delay in getting this video up on YouTube. I'm having a lot of trouble with the YouTube Live, so maybe for next Pesach I'll figure out how to use it. Anyways, for those who might come across this on YouTube, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Rabbi Elisha Friedman. I'm the Rabbi of Kesher Israel in Harrisburg, and we have a wonderful community, so please check us out and to get to know us a little bit. Now, what I want to deal with in this part two, in part one, we dealt with how do you organize the meals on Erev Pesach, which falls out on a Shabbos. So it was about how to structure the food that day. What I want to deal with in part two are the non-food related issues. Now, when you're talking about Pesach, so everything is food related, but this is a little bit less food related than part one. So in general, in a normal year, we have to get rid of chametz on Pesach. That's the main rule, so to speak. To prepare for Pesach, we got to get rid of the chametz. So there's three approaches that we use to get rid of the chametz on Pesach, which involves four different actions. All right, there's four things, but one of them is one approach takes two actions, so it's really three approaches. Approach number one is called bedikas chametz and biur chametz, which means checking for the chametz and burning the chametz. So that's part of the same unit. We have to physically get rid of the chametz, right? And normally on a regular year, we check on the night before the Seder. So the Seder's on the 15th of Nisan. The night before, on the 14th of Nisan, we do bedikas chametz with a flashlight or a candle. We go around our house and look for chametz. And then the next morning, so the morning of the 14th, before the 6th hour, so let's say this year, if it had been on a weekday, it would be between 11 a.m. and noon, sometime around then, we would burn the chametz, which can be done in different ways. You don't actually have to burn it. We try to burn it. That's the best way. But you could any way that you can rid yourself of the chametz. So you could throw it in a lake. Right? You could throw it in the Susquehanna River. You could flush it down the toilet. You just have to get rid of the chametz. So that's approach number one: checking and burning the chametz. Approach number two is nullifying the chametz. So this, you might not rid yourself physically of it, but you nullify it. You make it worthless and useless to you. So that's called bittul chametz. And we actually do that in two steps. One we do together with the checking. So after we check, we nullify any chametz which we don't know about, because at that point, if you don't know about the chametz, you don't want it in your life. So we nullify any chametz that we don't know about. And then the next morning, after we burn the chametz, right before the chametz becomes totally prohibited, so that's when we nullify all chametz. Whether we know about it, whether we don't know about it, we just nullify the whole thing. Okay, now then the third approach, and this is a more contemporary one, it's only a couple hundred years old. The first two, checking and burning and nullifying, are from the Gemara. So those are the classical ones. But in the last couple hundred years, we also start selling the chametz. So basically you make the rabbi, an emissary to go sell your chametz, and then he takes care of the third one and sells the chametz to a non-Jew. So those are the three things that we do. Now, if you think about a year like this year when Erev Pesach is on a Shabbos, so a lot of those are problematic, right? You can't check for chametz because you can't use a flashlight or a candle on Friday night, so you're not going to be able to do that on Shabbos. You can't burn chametz, obviously, on Shabbos because that's burning. You can't sell chametz on Shabbos because that's selling. All right, the only one that you could do is the nullification. So how do we coordinate all of this on a year like this year when Shabbos, when Erev Pesach is on a Shabbos? How do we do all this stuff? So checking the chametz is not that big a deal. You can check on the night of the 13th. All right, even in general, if you have a reason why you can't check on the 14th, so you could check on the 13th. So this year you can just move it up a night. Instead of doing it Friday night, you do it on Thursday night, and that's no big deal. You can make the blessings. And after that, you do the regular nullification. So you could nullify any chametz that you don't know about on the night of the 13th, right? If you don't know about it on Thursday night, then again, you don't want it, so you could nullify it. Now, on the Friday morning, the 14th, Friday morning is the 13th. Usually we do the burning of the chametz on the 14th. That's going to be Shabbos. But again, you can just move it earlier. So it's no big deal. You can do it on Friday morning this year. So, by the time Friday at noon comes around, you'll be done burning. Now, the one thing to point out is that you're not going to do the nullification on Friday morning, because you can't nullify all your chametz on Friday morning. You still are going to be eating it on Friday afternoon. Friday night, you're going to be eating it. right? The Shabbos lunch, you might be eating it, depending on what you do for your meals, which we talked about in part 1, but you're going to be using some of this chametz. So that nullification that we normally do with the burning, you're not going to do. You're going to wait to say that until Shabbos after lunch when you stop using the chametz. All right? Now, what's interesting to point out over here is that even though on Friday afternoon you can use chametz, right? You can eat chametz at 2 and 3 and 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon. You can use it the whole Friday night, the whole Shabbos morning. So why do we have to do the burning early on Friday morning, right? Why maybe you could do the burning this year on Friday at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. So the Shulchan Aruch says very clearly that you have to do it at the same time this year as you would do it every other year. And the reason he explains, even though there's no pressing need to burn the chametz at between 11 and 12 on Friday morning this year, because you could use the chametz the whole afternoon, but he says we don't want you to get confused and forget next year. So, right, if we do the burning of the chametz this year at 5 or 6 p.m., so next year someone might say, oh, I guess you're allowed to burn the chametz in the afternoon, and they'll make a mistake. So we say that you have to do it this year the same time you would do it every year, late morning between the 5th and 6th hour, between 11 and 12, so that next year no one comes to make a mistake. So that's going to be the schedule for the day, for Thursday night, Friday morning, in terms of checking and burning. That you're going to do it the same as every year, just one day earlier, and even the burning has to be done by noon on Friday this year. Now, let's just talk about for 1 minute. Let's say someone forgets, all right? They're not used to doing it 2 days early, the checking, and they forget to do it on Thursday night, and then now it's Shabbos time. So what are their choices? So there's basically 2 approaches. One approach is that you can do the checking on Shabbos. You could do bdikas chametz on Friday night. You just can't use a flashlight or a candle. You can't bring a light into a dark room. So you could just check the rooms that already have light in them. All right, you go into whatever room is lit enough to check. You could check on Friday night. And then, interestingly enough, the rooms which are dark, so any rooms which you don't have a light on already, you can wait until Saturday night, which is Yontif, which is the first night of Pesach, and you can actually do the checking that night. So, right on Yom Tov, you are allowed to light a fire for a purpose. So you could light a candle on Saturday night, on the first night of the Seder, and to go around checking your rooms that didn't have lights in them on Shabbos. And do whatever chametz you find, you put away, and you could burn it on Chol HaMoed. All right, so that would be the one approach. If you do forget to do it on Thursday night, then you could do it on Friday night in the rooms that have lights on already. And on Saturday night, on the first night of Pesach, you could do it with a candle, finish it up, and then you'll burn it on Chol HaMoed. The other option is that some poskim suggest, and this is a broader discussion, but our checking is not really the classic checking. The classic checking, that was really when they would clean their house. They had a smaller house, so the night before they would start cleaning it. We do extensive cleaning before the night of B'dikas Chametz. So we've already done a lot of cleaning before then. We just check in a more symbolic or ceremonial way. That's why some people put out, Chametz to find. So it could be that if you forget to check this year, it's not that big a deal, and you could just skip it because anyways you've cleaned beforehand, right? We're assuming that most people clean their homes for days before. They've done a thorough cleaning. So if you forget to check on Thursday night, it might not be that big a deal. So those are the 2 options. If you forget, ideally you don't forget and you do it on Thursday night. Now, let's talk about the other problem here, which is selling the chametz, right? Normally we would do that on the morning before Pesach, but this year we can't sell on Shabbos. So basically there's 2 different options. All right, one is, there's 2 ways to get around this. One is that you could sell your chametz, right? In other words, in Harrisburg, we'll do a sale of chametz. So we could sell the non-Jew all the chametz on Friday morning, but we could write in the clause, we could write in the contract that people are still going to have the rights to use their chametz for 24 hours longer. So they're going to have the rights to use their chametz until Shabbos at 11. All right, so even though the sale would take effect on Friday morning, but people are going to be able to use it until it becomes prohibited after lunch on Shabbos. The other option is there's another approach to this, which is that you can put in the contract that even though you're doing the sale, you're affecting it, you're doing the whole physical process of it on Friday, but it doesn't take effect until Shabbos. Till Shabbos when chametz becomes prohibited. So you can actually post the date, the sale, you can say that it's going to happen on Shabbos. So this is part of a broader issue. Are you allowed to do something, to do a sale on Friday, which will take effect on Shabbos? Some poskim say that it's only a problem to sell things fully on Shabbos. But if you did part of it on Friday and it only takes effect on Shabbos, it's not that problematic. So that's how they do mechiras chametz. That's how they do the sale of chametz on Shabbos. Because they do the action on Friday, but it takes effect on Shabbos. But the other people say that it's better to do the other way, to just do the whole sale on Friday and put in the contract that people can use their chametz up until Shabbos. Problem is then you can't add things after Friday. So if someone's doing business with chametz, if someone buys chametz, then that might be a problem to add it afterwards. After the sale takes effect on Friday. Okay, the contract we use in Harrisburg does have that language in it that if Erev Pesach is on a Shabbos, so then the sale will take effect later. Now, let's say this again, just to deal with this issue for a minute, but it's just interesting. It's not going to happen this year here in Harrisburg, but let's say someone forgets to sell their chametz. All right, or I guess it could happen if they forgot to make the rabbi the emissary. All right, so now it's Friday night and you remember that you forgot to sell your chametz. So what's your options on Shabbos? So the Mishnah Berurah records that there's a debate, there's a machlokas. Some poskim say that you could actually do this sale on Shabbos. All right, in pressing circumstances like that, you could go ahead and sell the chametz to the non-Jew on Shabbos. Other poskim say that no, you can never do a sale on Shabbos. So so again, it's better to really try to do it beforehand. But there is some leniency on Shabbos. Now, there are other options. If you only have a little bit of chametz, all right. So if you only have, a couple of snacks or whatever, you have a little bit of chametz that you want to get rid of. So then you could give it to a non-Jew with a sort of, winky face kind of give. Let's say you give it to your neighbor and you know that they'll give it back to you after Pesach. So you're allowed to do that if it's just a little bit. And you don't have to worry about that. But let's say you have a lot of chametz, so then you can't start playing games. You would actually have to, again, you could rely on the position that you're allowed to sell it, but if you want to be strict and not sell it, so then you really would have to give it away. So let's say someone, sees that they have a lot of vodka on Shabbos and they totally forgot to sell it, a lot of whiskey, whatever it is, some sort of chametz that's valuable. So then you ideally you would just give it away to a non-Jew at that point, and that's it. You would just give it as a full gift. So that's some of the options to correct it if you forget to sell it on before Shabbos and now it's Shabbos. Okay. Now let's come to how to rid yourself of chametz once Shabbos comes. So on Shabbos you are going to have a little chametz left, right? You're going to be using it, whatever it is. And most people are going to be eating some chametz on Shabbos morning. So after eating chametz on Shabbos morning, so the Shulchan Aruch says that you should wash yourself out very clearly, wash your mouth out, shake off your clothing. Ideally, you do it outside. All right, if there's a little bit of crumbs, so then that's not the biggest deal. You could just sweep them up and put them in the garbage can, and that's no big deal. If you just have a little bit of crumbs, even better than putting it in the garbage is flushing it down the toilet. All right, but basically, if it's just a little crumbs, it's not the worst thing in the world. What if you have a real piece of chametz left? All right, so you're done eating and you see that you overestimated how much you're going to need. Now you have a full loaf sitting there. So you got to ruin it. You got to really make sure that it's destroyed, right? You can't burn it, obviously, because it's Shabbos. You could try to throw it into into the river, maybe. Actually, you can't throw it in the river because the Erev is the slope. So you'd have to find some water in the Erev. I don't think we have that in Harrisburg, so you don't have that option in Harrisburg. You could throw it in the toilet. That's a really good solution. If it can fit in the toilet, then you could just throw it right down there. You could pull it apart a little bit. You could, if you want to put it in the garbage, you could do that. But the problem is the garbage is in your domain. So you'd have to ruin it. You could pour like some vinegar or something to make it totally unusable or inedible. That would be a way to destroy that. For people who have dogs, this is a great time to be a dog owner, because if you can give it to the dog and the dog will eat it, then that's a great way to get rid of it. You could sprinkle it up and try to throw it around in the ground. You could sprinkle it up and put it in the garbage, but you got to really make sure to destroy whatever you have left. So again, ideally you can estimate how much you're going to need, but if you can't, if you overestimate, then to make sure to destroy it. And then you clean yourself off, and that's it. So that has to be done this year by 11:08, or 11:08 you have to finish eating chametz, and then I think by 12:10. All right, so you have an extra hour to do this process of getting through all the chametz, cleaning yourself off, and then after that, that's going to be the end of the chametz. And right before 12:10, so that's when you would do the nullification, bittul chametz. And that's when you would do the full nullification that we normally do that one after burning the chametz, but this year you would do it you just do it on Shabbos after you finish eating lunch. You do bittul chametz, nullify all the chametz, whether you know about it, whether you don't know about it, and that is the end of the process. So that is the one classic way of ridding ourselves of chametz that we are going to do on Shabbos, which is the bittul chametz. All right, so that's some discussion, and that's some of the details of how to rid yourself of chametz this year on Erev Pesach, which is Shabbos. Now, I want to talk about one last issue, which is preparing for the Seder. All right, because as we know, right, on the Erev Pesach is usually a very busy day. You're preparing for the Seder that night. But you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos for after Shabbos. So that day you cannot prepare for the Seder. All right, so this is going to be very interesting, because if you notice, right, usually the second Seder starts later than the first Seder. It's like a good half hour after the first Seder started. And the reason is because you can't prepare from the first day to the second day. So the preparation for the Seder, warming up the food, all that kind of stuff always starts, setting the table starts after the first day of Yantif is over. So that's why it's later. So this year, the first Seder is basically like the second Seder every other year, that it's also going to start later because you have to wait for nightfall, you have to wait for Shabbos to be over, and then you can start preparing for the first Seder. So it's going to be, noticeably later. So what can you do to try to make it as early as possible? So you could prepare quickly. You could have you could have your whole preparation ready to go, and to just throw it out as soon as Shabbos is over, and to try to get that Seder going. Whatever you can prepare on Friday is a good idea. To prepare on Friday afternoon for the Seder, to prepare the charoses, to prepare the maror, to check the lettuce, to try to get that stuff going. There is some discussion in the poskim about if you're using horseradish for maror, so you don't want to chop it up so early that it's already dried out and it loses its bitterness by the time the Seder comes around. So, try to chop it up in a way that maybe it's a little bigger, and then you chop it up a little more on Saturday night, on the Seder night, but to chop it up in a way that it's not totally dry and not bitter by the time the Seder comes. But again, any prep that can be done on Friday afternoon is going to be helpful. There's even I think some people even set their Seder table on Friday afternoon, and then they maybe eat somewhere else. So, some people I think are going to go to some extremes to be able to start as soon as they can on Saturday night. Now, if you don't have another place to eat, right? Let's say you have a dining room table and you're going to be eating there on Shabbos, Friday night and Shabbos lunch, and then you want to have the Seder there. So if there's a non-Jew that, you're hiring or something, and they want to come set the table, they could do that, all right? So if you have a non-Jew that's going to be helping you with the Seder, they could set even on Shabbos. You could be lenient that way. Or there is an option over here, which is that you could set the table on Shabbos afternoon and then eat a little something over there that won't ruin the table. So maybe eat some fruits or vegetables or something, just so that you're using the table on Shabbos. So it's not like you're totally preparing for after Shabbos, but the table won't get ruined, by what you're eating over there. So that's one option. If you're going to have a shalashuddis, that's just some fruits and vegetables, so then you could set the table for that, eat a little fruits and vegetables there, and that could be a leniency. So if you don't want to wait until after Shabbos to set the table, that's an option. Again, we have three options basically. You can either set the table on Friday and eat somewhere else for Shabbos. You can you could ask a non-Jew, or you could hire a non-Jew to set the table on Shabbos, or you could set the table and eat a little something that won't affect the table too much. Now, the one thing that you could do no problem on Shabbos is you can take a nap on Shabbos afternoon in order to be well rested on the Seder night. That's not a problem. To sleep in order to be well rested for Pesach. And that, I would say, is almost one of the, we've been talking a lot about some of the issues with having Shabbos and Erev Pesach and how to coordinate a busy day like that with Shabbos. But the main benefit is really that, usually we come into the Seder so exhausted and so tired out from running around that whole day and the week before trying to get ready for the Seder. But the beauty of this year is that when Erev Pesach is on a Shabbos, so that busy day is on Friday. Right, you run around, you prepare stuff on Friday for the Seder, but by the time Friday night comes, it's we have a whole Shabbos to relax, to rest up, and to be prepared for when the Seder comes. So this year we have the opportunity to be very well rested and to come into the Seder nice and refreshed and ready to talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim. All right, have a great Shabbos and a great Pesach, everyone.